Welcome to Campfire Football. I'm Sebastian North. So the U.S. men's national team just wrapped up their October 2023 friendlies against Germany and Ghana. Let's go over the squad, the two games, and some of the takeaways. Because I actually thought this was a pretty productive camp, so there are some things to talk about. Now, when you looked at the squad when it was released, there were very few surprises. The notable absentees are Anthony Robinson, Walker Zimmerman, and Tyler Adams. This left some holes that would be interesting to see who filled them. We'll touch on them as we go along. I don't need to just rattle off the whole squad. But the main inclusion was Gio Reyna. The only reason we are in a Gregg 2.0 era is because of everything that happened at the Qatar World Cup and in the aftermath with Gio Reyna, his parents, and Gregg Berhalter and his whole family. A total soap opera that was pretty embarrassing for the United States to have to deal with. This was the opportunity to completely move on from it, chuck the whole thing in the bin, and that is exactly what happened, which is fantastic news for the U.S. men's national team. So on to some actual football. Well, the first game against Germany was a very good one to have on the schedule. Now, I know Germany are a team who have struggled in recent years. In the last two World Cups, they haven't made it out of the group stage. They got knocked out by England at the last Euros. It's been lean times for the Germans. So who steps in? Julian Nagelsmann. And his first match was against the United States. So what does this mean? Well, Germany have a lot to prove to their own fans. They have a brand new coach who has been brought in basically until the Euros. This means he needs to recreate a good vibe. He needs to create some momentum, get some results, because in 8 months, they will be hosting the Euros. So that means Julian Nagelsmann is not going to pick a random B team to face the United States because he's like, this isn't really important. He brought a very strong team. That is a perfect opponent for the United States. If you're going to play one of the top tier teams, you want them to bring their best players so that you get the real test. So let's get into the game real quick. Gregg Berhalter obviously goes with his standard 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1, depending on whether or not they have the ball. Germany actually had a fascinating formation. They played a sort of 4-4-2. The thing is, the two up front was one center forward, Niklas Füllkrug, and then way out on the right-hand side was Leroy Sané. There was no obvious left winger for Germany. As a matter of fact, Robin Gosens, who was the left back, he loves to charge forward, and that was the space he ended up taking up when Germany had the ball. In the midfield, they had Pascal Gross and Ilkay Gundogan as the holding midfielders, and ahead of them, they had Jamal Musiala and Florian Wirtz, who were told to just go and create havoc and danger with their dribbling and their passing ability. A little bit of an interchange of positions, top quality players. It's a great test. And they seem to be passing it quite well in the first half. Both teams were creating some good openings off of counterattacks. Germany was clearly a superior team on the ball, but when the United States were able to break after they won it, they were very dangerous. Now, the U.S. have the ability, when they do some quick one-touch play, if it comes off, they really have the speed to break in behind teams. And they did this against Germany. They had a throw in on the right-hand side. The ball comes in, a couple one-touch balls, and then Weah is free. He is 2v1 with Pulisic against Rudiger, plays in Pulisic. Pulisic goes around Ter Stegen and goes down. The referee waved it away. There's no VAR, so it didn't get called back. I've heard people say this is a clear dive. I've heard people say this probably could have been a penalty if there was VAR. Either way, doesn't matter. The fact they created the chance is what's actually interesting. And just a couple minutes later, Christian Pulisic stepped up and scored to make all that irrelevant. Just goes right through three German defenders, puts it in the top corner from about 20 yards out. This is a great goal. Christian Pulisic is your guy to deliver this kind of thing in big moments, which is so necessary if you want to be able to go deep in tournaments. Obviously, what you need in addition is a full squad that can really function together. When the U.S. are doing the things that make them look good, they look good. If they let go and get a little bit slack, they get picked apart. And that's what happened when Germany equalized 12 minutes later before halftime. Leroy Sané picks up the ball on the right-hand side and just drives at the American defense, and no one can lay a glove on him. No one can touch him. He does a 1-2 with Gundogan, gets in. Matt Turner does well to try and palm the ball away, but guess who's first to react? Ilkay Gundogan, as usual, sees the future. So he taps the ball in. The U.S. is tied 1-1 at halftime. And in the second half, Germany sort of stepped up the class. So the way Germany took the lead was an encapsulation, in my opinion, of the gulf between the two teams. Gundogan is such a good player. He was over there pulling the strings on the right-hand side. They end up doing a nice little bit of combination. The ball comes to Musiala. He drops it to Gosens, who plays Niklas Füllkrug, who is all by himself, turns and scores. How onside he is here, and Serginho Dest being so slow to track and get out, and he makes these kinds of errors quite often. The third goal Germany scored had a pretty big element of luck to it. Musiala ends up scoring. Overall, it was a messy goal, and I didn't think that was a goal that Germany could hang their hat on. Is like, yeah, we created this and did a good job. Not long after Germany took a 3-1 lead, the subs came on, and the game pretty much just petered out from there. So let's move on to Ghana. My goodness, were Ghana disappointing. But I'm going to blame it on their jerseys. That's right. Did you see Ghana's jerseys? Those Puma kits are an atrocity. They look like a training shirt. It's the square thing. They are awful, awful, awful first team jerseys. The game started relatively even. The U.S. was definitely on the front foot. Ghana did fine in that opening 10 minutes, and then all of a sudden, the goals just started coming in. Balogun keeps his run going. Ball goes to him. He crosses looking for Pulisic at the back post. The ball gets blocked, and Reyna is right there, ready to smash it home. And the U.S. just rode the momentum. Weah, who is becoming quite a handful, he gets into the box and gets dropped. Pulisic comes up, scores the penalty. It's 2-0. And then 2 minutes later, it's 3-0. The third goal is just a calamity from Ghana. And it's a great finish in the end by Flo Balogun. This is just the 22nd minute. Great start for the U.S. And they got a fourth before halftime. Gio Reyna getting a second. And at least this one was a pretty fun little incident. Reyna plays a really nice split to Pulisic running in behind the defense. He tries to find Balogun with the ball. It gets cut out by Opoku, who, instead of just trying to get up and prod the ball away, he basically sits on it. Referee has no choice but to give an indirect free kick, which we see very rarely. So Balogun plays it to Pulisic, who sets it, and Reyna steps up and hits it in the net. This is great for Gio Reyna. It's yet another thing that just puts the whole saga behind him. And it's also important because against Germany, he was pretty anonymous. He only played 45 minutes because he is rebuilding his health. He only played 45 minutes against Ghana as well. Him getting a double was the icing on the cake for that first half, and then the second half was a complete change of personnel. So now let's go over some of the takeaways. So if you consider the absentees to the squad, obviously the big question in the midfield is, if you want to play Musa and McKennie, excellent. Then you have to play Reyna as your third midfielder. Where does that leave Tyler Adams when he's fit? Or you have Tyler Adams, Musa, Tyler Adams, McKennie. You can't play all three of those guys if Reyna is actually fit and firing. Overall, the front line, Pulisic, Balogun, Weah, that looks set. Obviously, Matt Turner in goal, he's not losing his spot anytime soon. Dest will start. Anthony Robinson will start on the left when he's fit. And overall, this is starting to look like a much more settled squad in terms of what we're going to see, what Gregg wants, and how they're going to play. So let's talk a little bit about how they play. Now, I'm going to give Gregg some credit here because from what I see, he is utilizing his options in a very logical way. Right? You've got Weah and Pulisic, who are fast wingers. Put them out on the side. Flo Balogun is a 9. He's a good pivot. He's also quick and runs off the ball very well. Gio Reyna, if he's playing well and he's on, he's a great 10. And then you've got athletic guys in the middle, big guys in the back, and fast fullbacks who can cover space and also join the attack. All of this means you're probably good at counterattacking, which is one of the main things they do, and that switches of play based on your formation are a good way to get in behind the defense. They are starting to add little tight combinations, which is very important. But overall, this is not a team that should be possessing for very long stretches. The U.S. look better when there is space. I don't know how well the U.S. can break down a team that has 10 guys behind the ball 30 yards from their own goal. And that's because they're kind of predictable. But at the international level, predictable is not the worst thing. If you're efficient at what you do and you're able to take your opportunities, you can win games. And that's where I think a lot of U.S. fans need to kind of calm down. It's like, you want a team with an identity? There you go. This does look like a team with an identity. Now, I'm not saying it's the most refined version of football, but it's the international game. No team plays the most refined version of football. But then there's a bigger question. How can they get better? A lot of people may say the coach or the style of play or whatever. I personally think it's really simple. They have the best players available to them in the squad. It's not like there's guys out there who are so good who need to be brought in to revitalize things or make anyone better. I think the best players available to the pool are in the side, and they're playing the positions that fit them best. So overall, that's done. How do they get better? Well, the players themselves who are part of this starting core, they need to improve. Good thing is they're young, and that's what they have time to do. The major heavy hitters on this team need to be playing week in, week out, wherever they are. It's no good for Serginho Dest to be benched at Barcelona, benched at AC Milan. So the fact that he's playing at PSV this season is a really good thing. Pulisic left Chelsea, which was a sort of difficult way for him to get minutes. He is tearing it up at AC Milan, which is massive for his confidence. Flo Balogun playing and starting at Monaco right now, which is very good for him as well. Tim Weah is getting some minutes at Juve, but he's going to have to fight for his place. And really, the concern is in the midfield. Obviously, Tyler Adams has gone through some injury issues. Weston McKennie's back at Juve. Yunus Musa is getting some minutes and some starts at AC Milan. Gio Reyna hasn't gotten much time at Borussia Dortmund this season. He's also been coming back from injury. But those guys really need to be playing week in, week out. And the idea is that this whole entire squad, all these guys who are young, they're in their early or mid-20s, by the time the World Cup comes to the U.S., they need to be hitting their prime. So they have to be improving in the next 2 or 3 years. In that time, there may be another couple guys who ignite their careers, a young player who bursts on the scene, but it's hard to see really anyone else usurping the guys who are already in the starting picture here. Now, how they perform against the top sides in the world, the U.S. is not on their level yet, no. But can you compete in those games? Can you be difficult to beat? Can you find a way to nick results because you have something to offer? So that wraps up the October camp. This was really good, I think, for U.S. fans to see. On one side, here's a humbling from a really, really good team. On the other side, here's a team that didn't really show up, and you smashed them, as you should. Expectations that the United States is going to be a superpower anytime soon can be tempered, but excitement for what this team is capable of doing can grow. So yeah, I think this was beneficial. I think we learned a lot. Hopefully the team can do well in Copa America this summer. I'm Sebastian North. This is Campfire Football. Thanks so much for stopping by.